Here's to the women who won't settle, the badasses, the rebels, the ones who know they deserve more, those who know how to get their worth, those who refuse to settle for mediocre careers. You can hate them or you can love them, but the one thing you can't do is ignore them. Why? Because you admire them. Welcome to the Shattered Ceiling Show. I'm your host, Olivia Jaras. Here you'll find the tools, inspiration, and advice to help you shatter glass ceilings and take control of your career. As a woman, you already have some specific tools and skills that can be used to your advantage in the workplace. I'm here to show you how. So let's get started. This is a big move for us at Salary Coaching for Women. We're really excited about what's to come. We're very thrilled that you've chosen to join this Women's Career Mastermind. And we're excited. We haven't even launched and we're already 90 members deep. So this is big news. This is cool. This is exciting. This is exactly the kind of movement that we're looking to build. So welcome officially to the first installment of our webinar or Mastermind sit-down state of affairs session, where we're going to be talking about, today is really all about what is this Women's Career Mastermind that you've joined and how can it be of service to you? You see, let me tell you a little bit about, what we do at Salary Coaching and how this group kind of came to happen. You see, I've had the great fortune of having helped thousands of women overhaul their careers and negotiate millions of dollars that they've otherwise left at the negotiation table. But all that really means is that I've had the opportunity to help women just like you, just like me, figure out what they're worth and how to advocate for it. Now at this point, I have a team and we have an inner circle, which we call our VIP Career Women's Experience. And things are rolling very smoothly when it comes down to the impact that we're having. But ask anyone on my team, they will agree, there is a broad underlying problem when it comes down to women and their careers. And there's a reason why we still have this gender wage gap. And it's time we address this. And this is why we have this Women's Career Mastermind. Because the reality is, whether we like to admit it or not, most women in the workforce are either underpaid or undervalued. And that's not good. It's not getting solved. We still have this gender wage gap. Yes, there are plenty of government policies and most companies don't want to underpay women, if you will, in the same way that perhaps it was okay to do 30, 40 years ago, right? It was at one point in history. I don't know if you've ever watched Mad Men, but it was okay to say you earn less because, you're a woman, you're taking care of your kids, and also you can't contribute to the workforce in the same way. That is kind of passé. Companies don't do that, at least not overtly anymore. And if it becomes public that they're doing something along those lines, if the media finds out, it's kind of like that Uber scandal that we had last year or the year before, where the CEO imminently got fired as soon as there was any sense of discrimination against women in the workforce. So it's not fashionable. It's not a trend. Companies don't want to pay unfairly. And here's the thing. There is something that you can do about it. There is a certain level of responsibility. And here you're going to hear me talk very straightforward and honest. And this is coming from having helped thousands of women in the workforce. We as women own part of the responsibility here for being underpaid and undervalued. You see, our entire lives, we've been taught to not rock the boat and to settle and kind of give in for the greater good, which has served us very well. We're the communal building individuals in a community, right? While as men are tending to be more assertive, and back in the hunter-gatherer days, if you want to look at that kind of relationship we had back from long before, what you see is that Men were out hunting and being more assertive and needing to be more aggressive when it came down to their daily actions. Women were more nurturing, and we took care of the tribe and took care of the children, and things that we still see today and that we need today. But I want to take you a little bit fast forward a few years from those days into when women started entering the workforce. You see, we were not the first ones to enter the workforce. Men were the first ones to, during the Industrial Revolution, enter the proverbial workforce that we know today, which is, by the way, changing dramatically. You see, women were staying at home raising children, and men were going to work. But what happened was, at this point in time, women were okay staying at home, right? This is pre the equality revolution, if you will, or the women's revolution time. But women at this point in time were like, okay, we'll stay. We're the nurturers. It makes sense for us to stay home. And men entered the workforce before we did. And they get to set the tone for how you succeed in the workforce. So then you fast forward a little bit to World War II, when women had to enter the workforce. And of course, there's some of this happening in World War I, but we weren't fully vested into this industrial new modern world that we were, right? So we fast forward to World War II, where men are shipped off, but then there's this entire industry that's supporting not only the economies of all the countries involved, but the infrastructure of war. Women are flooding into the workforce. Now, women have not really encountered this workforce before. And what is her name? Rosie the Riveter? You know, like that woman who's like got her, like that typical World War II poster of Rosie the Riveter, like showing her muscles out working in the factory. You see, this is when women enter the workforce. And the only blueprint that we have when it comes down to working and being successful in the workforce is what our male peers have given us. We enter the workforce with a template that says, in order for you to be successful, you have to be assertive, you have to be direct, you have to be uncompromising. Like, this is how you succeed in the workforce. Now, fast forward even a few more years down the line, this is how us women have found ourselves fully integrating into the workforce. We've found alternative ways to kind of raise a family with our spouses, with the help of childcare, with the help of family. Like, I'm not even going to go into the childcare side of things, but I do want to talk a little bit about like what's happened as we've entered this workforce and we've grown into this workforce. At no point have we had an opportunity to define how we can succeed in this workforce. All we've done is basically mimic this blueprint that we were given by our male peers. And the problem with that, as women, we have very different skills relative to our male peers. Now, this is important for a couple of different reasons. You see, as a society, we understand that men can be assertive, men can be direct, men can be uncompromising. All of these very masculine traits that are accepted. Like when a guy goes and tells his boss, I deserve you give me a 30% salary raise. The boss might not agree with it, but it's not going to sit very poorly. Now, if a female goes into her boss's office and says, boss, you need to give me, and assertively asks for that 30% raise, internally, whether it's overt or not, whether the boss realizes this or not, it's not going to sit as assertiveness. It's going to sit and be perceived as a little bit more aggressive than it probably was ever intended to be perceived. And this is because culturally, we are changing, we are shifting, and we are moving in the direction of equality and kind of being able to understand both men and women in the same way. But we're not there yet. So what does that mean? And again, I'm going to tie this all together and kind of land this idea for you so that you understand why it is that when we're helping women figure out their career paths and help them with their salaries, we're so successful, is because we basically have observed that women have this entire arsenal of tools that can really help you negotiate way better results than a guy ever could. And also do this whole career thing way better than a man ever could dream of doing it. You see, as natural nurturers, women, we know how to build community. That sense of intuitiveness, if you will, that women are always kind of called out for, that we're able to perceive things in a way that a guy just like kind of goes over your head. Like, those skills are not only good when it comes down to family and understanding your immediate network, what your kids' needs are, what your spouse's needs are. We have this innate ability to think and multitask and do things in a way that men can't quite do. And again, I love men. I'm married to one, right? This is not about yay men or yay women down men. Like, this is not about this. I'm just trying to point out the traits that you have that are more than likely going underutilized. Like, this is my call to arms so that you understand you own some of the responsibility in not being paid what you deserve or not landing that job and that promotion that you also know you deserve, right? So when it comes down to the workforce, as women, we've been trained our entire lives to emulate the success pattern dictated by men, not realizing that we have, like, those nurturing tools that we have can make us way more powerful than a guy could ever hope to be. Because not only can we be successful, but we can get buy-in. We can get people and support as we go in the process of our career growth, in the process of growing our salary, which you're not moving just yourself up to the top of that proverbial career ladder. You're moving the entire community with you. And the best example I can probably even think of will completely resonate with you. You see, when it comes down to negotiators, the world's top negotiator, I bet you're never going to guess who it is. You see, this is one person who can get whatever they want out of anyone, any celebrity, and it's been proven many times over. Any celebrity, convicted felon, like anything. And I'm really curious to see if any of you know who this is. But I'm going to spill the beans for you right now. I'll let you know. Oprah Winfrey. By negotiators worldwide, she is hands down the eminence when it comes down to negotiation. And she is not assertive. She's not direct. She's not uncompromising at all. Like, those are traits that do not describe her. She's in fact the opposite. She's really a beacon for all of these traits that come naturally to women. And she's fully embodied them in a way that she's taking advantage of them to benefit herself. And that's really at its core what we're doing here at Salary Coaching for Women. And this is at its core what you're going to be learning through this career mastermind, is how to become incredibly persuasive, how to influence behavior, how to figure out your worth. Because of course, there's a component of this, like, what's the point of leaning in and negotiating if you don't know what you're asking for? Or you don't even know what you're bringing to the table and what your market value is, right? So part of it is understanding the tools you already have. See, I'm not here to give you some like novel process or secret recipe that's really going to change how you do the world. And I mean, I guess it kind of is, but these are all tools that you already have. I'm not giving you or forcing you to do anything that you don't know how to do. I'm just saying, like, hey, there's some tools that you already have that you're probably kind of selling yourself short on, because they can really help you when it comes down to negotiating that promotion, getting that raise, or landing your dream career. So if there's one thing that I would love for you to do so that we can get kind of a thought process going and get you jump started in this direction, right? I really want you to take a look at, if you're working, your position description, and think about, are you serving your job, your employer, in a way that's perhaps not lined out or doesn't line up with your position description? Have you perhaps, like most women, taken on more responsibilities that aren't necessarily being compensated for because you wanted to serve, you wanted to contribute and be liked and not rock the boat, right? Which most women do this. So if you are doing it, that's okay. You're in the right place. We're going to change that. It's not going to happen overnight, but we can change that, right? So if you're employed, I want you to just start, make a copy of your position description or your resume if you're not currently employed or if you're like exploring new opportunities, and what isn't being reflected there. Because here's the thing. I want you to understand that the workforce is changing. Again, it's no longer that workforce of back in the day when we entered and men were working. Like that 9-to-5 job is obsolete. Not only because the workforce in itself is transitioning heavily towards what we call that gig economy or the contractor economy, but also because technology is rapidly replacing what was once irreplaceable skills. Okay. So I want you to look at either your position description or your resume, or heck, do both with a scrutinizing eye. And not for the skills that you've acquired over time, but rather for the contribution that you bring to the company's bottom line. You see, it's no longer about skills. The economy, in the direction in which we're headed, skills can be outsourced, right? They can either be outsourced to a contractor, but guess what? Soon enough, they're going to be replaced by technology. Think about practically any niche. Soon enough, we are going to be able to outsource it to technology. So it's really not about you gaining more skills or your resume needing more skills so that you're more qualified for the position. Not at all. You see, right now, where this economy is headed, and granted, yes, there is low unemployment, but where you are going to find that you're going to be able to, on one end, get that salary that you deserve and love your job is by doing something that contributes directly to increasing the bottom line. You see, the way you are being judged, or you're being measured, if you will, by the workforce and by your employer is your contribution to the bottom line. Skills don't matter anymore, as they definitely don't matter as much as they did before. In fact, there's a reason why 17 of the top 25 Fortune 100s have vowed to no longer look at candidates who exclusively, no longer require that you have an undergraduate degree. Why? Because they understand this. They understand that it's more than just the skills. It's your aptitude to contribute ultimately to that bottom line and to the greater vision and goals of the company. Does that make sense? So anyhow, in essence, this is really what I wanted to talk to you about. And kind of, hopefully you will take this as your call to arms to really look deeply at what you're doing and how you're contributing, and really get clarity on what it is that you bring to the table, because that's really the first step in being able to pursue your dream career and your dream salary. And if you've ever questioned whether or not there's such a thing as a dream career and a dream salary, I'm going to stop you right there and say that there absolutely is such a thing. And here's the exact formula. Now, the exact formula varies for every single person, but it has to be a combination of you feeling like you're making personal progress, like you're moving in a direction where you personally and professionally are growing, plus the element of feeling like you're contributing to a greater cause. Like, are you working towards something that excites you, that makes you feel like you're making the world a better place? And then the last element is, of course, salary and feeling like you're being fairly rewarded for what you do. So I really want to make sure that I leave you with this call to arms. You need to understand that the way forward, the way for you to land that dream career, to land that dream salary, to get that raise, and not a pity raise, because that's the other thing. There's so many sources out here and ways for you, like there's jobs out there. There's millions, in fact, billions of jobs right now. The economy is in a great shape for you to get a job. The jobs are out there. The economy is in great shape. Unemployment hasn't been this good in years, right? I don't care what political stance you have. Like, I'm not talking about politics at all. The jobs are out there. But at Salary Coaching, we're not about you landing your next job. We want you to find that job, that career that you're like, holy cow, I cannot wait to wake up every single morning and go to work and do what I truly love and earn what I really deserve to be earning. You should not be settling for a mediocre job, nor should you be settling for a mediocre salary. You know, if you don't believe that, then, well, I don't think we can be friends. Because I have absolutely no doubt that that can be done. We've done it with thousands of women at this point. And in fact, I do it with myself periodically, and all by putting your finger on the pulse of your market. In fact, a really fun exercise that I went myself, like periodically, I'll be like, okay, well, if I'm really good at this whole gender inequality thing and pay gap, I need to see what my market value is. Granted, right, I've removed myself from the hireable workforce because I'm my own boss and I am my CEO. I'm a firm believer that you should practice what you preach. So every once in a while, I'll go into the job market and apply for jobs and have my resume all polished up and test, okay, what kind of jobs can I get? And guess what? This last round, I got interviews I got through to like the last round of interviews. And again, like I had never any intentions of taking any of these jobs, but they didn't know that. And you're not going to tell them, right? This is our little secret. So before I pull myself out, I had interviews to be the director of gender equality programs at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Then I also interviewed for the Hewlett-Packard Foundation, the same role. And then for United Nations for their gender and equality director, executive assistant director. So I'm very aware that perhaps my role right now as a CEO, like some people are like, oh, but now you own a business. You're not in the workforce. You don't actually know this. Well, guess what? I help women every single day do this. And then I do test it myself because I think it's fundamental that I keep my finger on the pulse of my market. And you know what also this really helps you to do is, even if you aren't interested in getting a new job, the whole idea of going into the market, knowing what you're worth and how to advocate for it, it's such a freaking ego boost. I mean, I'm telling you, being sought after by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, by United Nations, by the Hewlett-Packard Foundation, like, yes, that is absolutely like a nice ego rub for me. But you deserve the same thing. And see, what I'm all really just saying is that if I can do it, you can do it too. And it doesn't take rocket science. There's no secret formulas other than you looking inside and understanding those tools that you already have and how to use them. So in this free mastermind, my goal is to give you a taste of all of these tools that you already have so that it ignites in you what has been ignited in me and in my VIP ladies like Jenny here. And that realization that you shouldn't be selling yourself short, that you've told yourself a story for way too long, that you should settle for less money or for a lesser position than the one you currently, or than the one that you really should hold. And this is a big problem because not only are you not getting younger, let's put it this way, you're getting older. You really do get just one chance at this life, right? By most belief standards, right? I don't know if you believe in repeating this life or how that would work, but for most beliefs, like at least what I believe is like I just get one chance at this particular life. And if you're underselling yourself, if you're underemployed, and if you're limiting what you're willing to go after, not only are you selling yourself and this chance at life short, but think about the example. Think about the legacy that you're leaving. If you have kids, think about what your grandkids are going to say. Yeah, mom worked for 30 years at the same company. She was kind of underpaid. She was a great mom, but she never really pursued her ambitions. They might not actually say that, but you know they're going to know that, right? Versus, how about you be that story that you would like your grandkids and great-grandkids talk about and gush about? Like, yes, that was my freaking grandmother. You see, I've had the great fortune that my grandmother, she was an incredible role model for me. I think she was like 16 growing up in Chile, in Santiago, not in Santiago, in Viña, Chile. And this was during World War II. The British Army British Navy came down with boats by the coast of Chile, which is like that long, skinny country in South America, and was asking for volunteers. And my grandmother faked her passport or her like ID to say that she was 18, but she was really 16. And she shipped herself off to war and pursued her dreams because she was like, I ain't willing to be stuck here. You see, this for me is the kind of legacy that I see. And I'm like, man, my grandmother was such a freaking badass at a time and place where you weren't meant to be doing this. Like, definitely not in the 1930s in Santiago or like South America. Like that was not what you did. But yet she was willing to bet on herself, on her life. And she became like a total badass ambulance driver in World War II, driving through like war zones. And there's been all of these women that have come before us that have left this legacy and have carved a path, whether it's your grandmother or whether it's your mom or other women that have come before you. I really want you to take a deep look at the women that you admire, the women who've carved a legacy for you and that have paved the road for you to be where you are today. And think about how it's your turn to push that forward and to really further crack that glass ceiling for the next few generations down the line. Because if you're watching this, you know you have something inside of you that needs to come out. And it might take you blood, sweat, and tears to make it happen. But it's your responsibility and nobody else's to make it come to life. All right? So I think that's my call to arms for you. And I'm not gonna push it much further, but I really wanted to make this first session a meaningful one in which you really get to know how I truly feel about the current state of affairs of women in the workforce. And well, to let you know a little bit about this free career mastermind. So in here, you will be getting access to many of our resources. Again, it's not the same. It's not quite the same as our VIP career experience. That's a little bit different, and if you're interested in talking to us about that, totally drop us a line. But this here is not about selling you on anything. It's just making it clear that you should not be settling. And odds are, if you're here, it's because you either watched one of our LinkedIn trainings or you downloaded one of our lead magnets or something along those lines, which leads me to believe and to assume that if you're honest with yourself, there's something that's not right. There's something that's nagging you inside about your career, about your salary. And I'm here to tell you that you should listen. It's not your fault because you've been told a story your entire life. You believed something your entire life that, again, it's what you were taught. There was no other way for you to know. But it's time to change that. It's time you start listening to your career. It's time to start listening to that greater calling that you have inside. And furthermore, it's time for you to start getting really clear on what you're meant to be bringing to the table. And it's really important for you to know your worth and know how to advocate for that.
All right, that's it for this episode. And if you're ready to take things to the next level, I invite you to check out our resources at salarycoaching.com. You'll get live access to me, the opportunity to engage with our super powerful guest speakers, and the support of hundreds of other women just like you. So check it out. And also be sure to catch our next episode with more ways to help you shatter glass ceilings.